Chatting with Sachin Latti today on the podcast. He's a police officer and he's a man on a mission. He's currently run 100 kilometers in one shot for the Run to Remember, which was on November 7th of last year. He ran it in 15 hours and a bit to raise a buttload of money for Honor House, which is a charity that helps veterans and first responders with OSI issues. He's a man to be reckoned with, and I think you're going to gain a lot from his insights and how he prepares for his next challenge. Stay tuned. Stop making old man sounds. Yeah, that's right. You know what I'm talking about. Those aches, those pains that cause you to groan every time you get out of your chair or into your car. That's not normal. Start getting after it by getting your copy of the Nimble Warrior book. This is a book that I created in order to start fixing things like back pain, knee pain, shin splints, you name it. In order to get your hands on a copy, you have to head to thenimblewarriorbook.com, and you can pick this book up for just the cost of shipping and handling. Additionally, for every book that you purchase, I'll be donating $1 to the Warrior Adventures Canada charity here in Canada that helps veterans get back on their feet by going out into the wilderness and doing some really interesting excursions. So head to thenimblewarriorbook.com, get your copy today, and start getting nimble immediately.
Welcome to the Hard to Kill podcast, the go-to podcast for military, LEO, and EMS professionals, sharing ideas and experiences from around the world to make you hard to kill. Here's your host, Dave Morrow.
All right. So, yeah, man, we got Sachin. It's Sachin, right? I'm pronouncing it right. It's not Shashin or anything funky like that.
It's Sachin. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
No, it's Sachin. Yeah.
This, folks, this is our first formal conversation. So we're getting to know each other on the podcast, aside from having conversations on Instagram, where Sachin's got a pretty good profile. And what caught my attention was just the level of dedication he has to his cause, and we'll get into what that is and what he's doing about it, which I thought was pretty noble of him. So Sachin, man, awesome to have you on the podcast. And
thanks, man.
How you doing, man? What's your story? Let's start right off the bat. What are you up to these days, and what brings you onto the podcast?
Well, because so first off, let's start by saying my name is Sachin. I work in law enforcement. I've been a canine handler. Well, I'm a canine handler now. I work in Vancouver, and I've been working in law enforcement for 16 years. So last year, November 7th, I started an initiative here in the Vancouver area to raise awareness and funds for first responders and veterans. As it relates to their mental health issues, more specifically like PTSD related type of issues. And so last year, during the pandemic, like everybody, we weren't able to train or work out as we would normally do. I was an active jiu-jitsu player, so clearly jiu-jitsu has been off the table for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so for me, I have my own sort of mental health battles as well, with anxiety and depression and whatnot. So the pandemic wasn't helpful for that. So I had to make a few decisions as to how I wanted to proceed further moving forward. And I wanted to do it in a positive way rather than a negative way, because I was watching the news, social media, and a lot of the stuff that people are talking about and whatnot. I didn't really want to get too involved, just because I knew my mental state and I just don't want to add any negativity to it. So I wanted to throw some positivity. So I read 3 books last year or a couple years ago, or during the pandemic, and they spoke to me. One specifically really got me going was the David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. Obviously, a lot of people have been reading that book. And I read that one. I also read, obviously, Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink, and 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson. And I'm not a huge reader, but I read those books and they activated me, so to speak. And so I started running because I hated it and I was never really good at it. So I decided, fuck it, let's go. And so I set up a schedule of running 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it was like 5K. And then slowly I started progressing, getting better. And then I thought, okay, here's an opportunity to leverage my skill set, which is fitness, and leverage that to help some other people. And that's what I did. So I ran 100 kilometers on November 7th last year from Chilliwack, BC to the Vancouver International Airport. It's about 100, well, it is 100 kilometers. And we helped raise over $20,000 for PTSD programs for veterans and first responders. We sent that almost $21,000 to the BC Yukon Command of the Legion. And then I requested that the money go to the PTSD program. Now, having said that, that's what kind of started it all, right? And the reason why I wanted to jump on here to speak to you and your listeners is because I'm trying to start a movement here to help and support as many of our brothers and sisters across Canada as possible. And so I want to do my part. I want to maximize my skill sets over the next couple of years so that I can really make an impact and help the collective the best way I see I can. And so this year I've scheduled 8 running events that'll total 840 kilometers, and
Whoa.
I'm going to run all of that. So they're spread out throughout the year, and they're all ultras. So from 100 miles to 100 kilometers to 50 miles, like just a whole bunch of these sort of races that I'll be doing across Canada, and then across Canada for the most part. And the goal for this year, because we raised over $20,000 last year, the goal this year is $30,000. And really what I'm doing here, and I'm going to be doing the next few weeks, is going to be a call to action on all the podcasts that I'm going to be jumping on every podcast I can possibly get on. And it's a call to action. All our brothers and sisters, we want to support as much as we can. And so this year I'll be running all those events, and all the money that we're going to be raising this year will go towards Honor House in BC. Honor House is a local charity here that helps all first responders, that be paramedics, firefighters, CBSA, RCMP, every municipal police department, veterans and active members of the military. And they help with occupational stress injuries. And then, so the $30,000 we're raising this year will go directly to Honor Ranch. They're building a ranch in Ashcroft, BC. Nice. For the families to also go with our brothers and sisters that are injured through occupational stress injuries. So that's where this money is going this year. And I obviously have to put in work for people to be motivated to donate. So I've set up a fundraising season, which will be starting end of March. March, I will do Goggins 4x4 48. That's 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. April 29th, I will go to Salmon Arm and run 100 miles in 24 hours or under. And then, here, 1 second. Let me get the itinerary. Stand by.
Yeah, right on.
But essentially, this is my life's mission for the next so many years, because the ultimate goal is to run across Canada in 2025.
Whoa!
And,
so you're Terry Fox in it. Wow.
Well, thank you for giving me such a compliment, which I do not deserve whatsoever. But I'm gonna try to do my best to do my part to help the collective. And that's what I want to do. So what that means is, so I'm going to just look at this list of these runs I got going on here. And I'll cite them off real quick, just so people can have an understanding of the level of running we're going to be doing. And so we can kind of, I don't know, share the punishment a little bit.
Sharing the pain, man. It's taking souls, whatever you want to call it. It's just pain. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've never done this before, mind you, and I've never run fundraised or anything. So this is all new to me, for me. But I'm I'm obsessed, right? It's taken me about 3 months to get my mind obsessed to this level about running across Canada.
Wow.
And now I'm there. And now I'm in a position to cite off these dates, and I'll do that right now. So March 22nd, I'm going to do the Goggins 4x4 48. April 29th is called the Last Person Standing race in Salmon Arm, BC. And my personal goal for that one is to run 100 miles in 24 hours.
100 miles?
Yes. Yeah. And May 14th, there's a Harriers Elk Beaver Ultra in Victoria, BC. I'll be running 100 kilometers on that one.
Wait, you just said the Harriers. Is that's the group that was created by British officers in India, and they have like
I think so.
Satellites all over the planet? Okay.
Yeah. Canadian River Valley Revenge. That's a 50-kilometer race. I'll be doing that in Edmonton, BC. July 5th, I've been invited by a group of veterans out in Ontario to join the Ruck to Remember. And I'll be joining them for 100 kilometers on the Bruce's Trail. They'll be doing the entire 900 kilometers of Bruce's Trail, which will take about a month. And the goal for that one, for their group, is to raise money for homelessness in Toronto area. I'm joining them just to meet with them and meet the brothers and sisters out there. And then also to raise awareness for the cause that I'm fighting for here in BC. And then July 23rd, I'm doing the Buck and Hell Coast Mountain Trail Run. It's 50 kilometers in North Vancouver. August 6th, I'll do the Fat Dog 120, which is 40 miles in Manning Park in BC. And September, the dates aren't released yet for this one, but the Abbotsford Police Department does a West Coast Run to Remember. And that's 140 kilometers in and around that distance from Victoria, BC to Abbotsford, BC. And they do those over a period of 4 days. Mm-hmm. And different members or brothers and sisters do it on each day. I'm committed to do all 140 kilometers in 4 days. And so I'll be doing a marathon with them every day. And then November 6th, that leads us to the Run to Remember, which is the event Sach in Motion inaugurated last year, which is 100 kilometers from PRTC, so the Pacific Regional Training Center for the RCMP, Chilliwack, in Chilliwack. I'll be running from there to YVR again. And this year I'm going to try to do it from Chilliwack to YVR. And so that's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different events this year, totaling 840 kilometers, all going towards Honor House $30,000 and is what we're trying to do. So that's essentially why I'm coming on here. Wanted to express that. And then also next year we'll be continuing the journey, because a lot of this is also for me to condition my body over the next 3 years so that my body can be able to handle the punishment of running 40 to 50 kilometers per day when I attempt to run across Canada. Now, right. To run across Canada, the goal is to do that in 6 months.
Okay.
And again, I'm not sure if it's been done before or nothing. Like, I don't know, right? But all I know is that I want to do this. It's 6,000 kilometers. And the goal is to run 40 to 50 kilometers a day for 6 months. Leave, I guess, where Terry Fox started out east, and then make it back to Victoria is the goal. So now, logistically, obviously, we're still in the preliminary kind of phase. Mm-hmm. At this moment now, it's primarily engagement and then training phase. So I want to just get the call to action, just let everyone know what I'm doing and how we're trying to raise the bar, and how we're trying to put a light on the issue as it relates to mental health for our brothers and sisters. And, I feel like last year when I started this journey, I saw some pretty significant gaps in the support that veterans and first responders get. And I thought there was, I thought there was a lot of support, but the reality is there isn't. And when I went to deliver that $20,900 check to the Legion, that was for me, it was extremely rewarding, because the conversations I was having with them, they hadn't seen that kind of donation. And I was dumbfounded by that, to be honest. how is one person, over, and this was the command of the BC Yukon Legion. Like, how is one guy just do one thing and this is the most they've ever seen? That's unacceptable, from my opinion. I think it's extremely unacceptable. So we need to bring more awareness, and that's what we're trying to do. And I think doing something like this, running, people are connected to it. It's, anybody can join in. Anybody wants to join it with me, they can. Like, it's let's make it a fun thing. We're just trying to raise the awareness and have some fun and stay healthy at the same time.
I love it. It's it's such a powerful message, dude. Like, amen to that, brother. Like,
Yeah.
the more, so I was literally just thinking about this when I was outside training today. I'm like, man, there's so many people that pay lip service to mental health, right? Like, we've got all the programs, you have Bell Let's Talk. I'm like, but at the end of the day, like, what are you actually doing? Putting a post on Facebook is not doing the work. And so I'm like, well, why is it that it's not more prevalent? Because, you're bringing up pandemic, and you encapsulate exactly the way I feel too. Like, I was just saying this to my wife. Like, I feel like they put an animal in a cage. Like, I'm in a zoo and I'm like pacing my cage. Like, I can't play hockey anymore. I can't go to the gym. I can't play. I used to play this Irish sports league. Like, it gave me an out. It gave me a way to be who I am. I'm a competitive, aggressive guy on the playing field. And then I can be a lot more calm when I'm at home and when I'm working on the business. And I was just like, what, like, it just seems so counterintuitive to just say, no, everything's canceled regardless of your health or whatever. And we don't care about the mental health costs. And we're seeing now, like, we sucked it up, but we're seeing now the repercussions, that the toll that it's taken on mental health. And we don't know what the long-term repercussions are. And you're in this space now, and you're like, okay, well, enough's enough. Like, you knew you had to come up with something. You read some awesome books, and then you took action. And I'm curious to know, like, out of those 3 books, I literally read last year as well too. And I don't think it's a coincidence. Okay, so let me ask you, from 12 Rules for Life, what's one of the rules that has really stuck with you the most that you think? And then I'll ask you something from the other 2 books as well.
Do what is meaningful, not as expedient.
Ah, nice.
Do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. But don't fast forward that. Critically think on that. You could spend about a few days on all those principles. You could spend a few hours just on do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. So what does that mean? What is meaningful to you, right? Now, that depends on the individual. For me, what's meaningful is I have to have purpose, and I have to do something for the collective, not just for, that's for me, man. Because if I don't, then I feel like I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my skills. But I also have to do it in a way that's positive, right? And I'm not judging anybody on how they want to engage with people or how they want to say things, but I'll do things the way I want to do them. So what I mean by that is I'm not going to go on social media and complain about what I have zero control over, right? I can't control the government. I can't control what they say. I can't control what they do. I control what I do. Now, I also believe in individual responsibility, right? So our individual responsibility is, there's quite a few things that we have, right? Now, if we're talking about our mental health, who's responsible for your mental health? The government is not.
Right.
You're responsible for your own mental health. So now we can say the government should do this, that, and the other, but they're not doing it. They don't care, and they probably don't. And they don't, zero fucks. But what are we going to do about that? Are we going to complain? Are we going to whine? They're not going to listen, right? So get out and fucking do something, right? Because the negativity also brings you down, and it's toxic, and we're surrounded by it. And anybody who has any mental health issues, you're making it worse. So how do we make it better? Finding a community, being connected with people, being positive, doing things that help others, doing things that help yourself, these are all positive things. So if we just focus on that, everything else will fall into place. Don't worry about all that other noise. So what I suggest for people is, if mental health is our individual responsibility, then everything is on the table to manage it. So I like to say, and I say, people wonder what the fuck I'm talking about, but I say Zulu Foxtrot all the time. And what I mean by that is zero fucks. And what I mean by zero fucks is zero fucks on what it takes to manage your mental health. Do whatever you need to do. So if that means you need to run 30 kilometers to just bring it down a bit, then you do that. If that means you need to meditate, that means you do that. That means you need to smoke a little weed or whatever you need to do, fucking do it. But whining, complaining, or being negative is not going to help anybody. So what helps people is action. So if I'm going to be positive, and if I'm going to try to raise or help raise money with the people I got around me for our brothers and sisters, that's a positive thing. That keeps me focused. That's a meaningful thing. So pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. That takes a lot longer to achieve. So I'm doing something meaningful. In time, it will affect more people and myself. So then I'm more of a positive member of society. Those are things we control. I can't control what the government does, but I sure as hell can control how many runs I do this year. I sure as hell can control how much money that we can help raise. I can sure as hell control what kind of engagement I have on social media, and making sure that it's a positive one so that we can raise and elevate everybody we're in contact with. That's what I have control over. So these are things we can connect with people and stay positive about. We don't need to connect with people on the negative parts. Like, yeah, we can talk about it and maybe have some strategies, but if nothing, at some point we have to put our foot down and say, okay, we got to take care of ourselves first before fucking anybody else.
I love
what
it,
do they
man.
do on those airplanes, right? The flight crew shows you how to use the masks before you apply to the kid, right? Because you need to save yourself before you save anybody else.
Yeah,
Anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I love it, man. I mean, we're very much aligned on that front. The whole concept of personal responsibility has been something that I've just been like for the last 20 years. I'm like, no, you got to sort out your own shit. And like before, I had a much better framework from really good thinkers like Jordan Peterson, Goggins, Jocko. Like these guys are like our these are our modern day philosophers. But ultimately, what they're expressing is Stoic philosophy. Stoic philosophy, once I found it 2 years ago, I was like, oh, this has been like, why didn't I know about it? If we look at just the three that you read last year, Peterson, Goggins, Willink, what are they ultimately expressing? They're expressing Stoic philosophy in their own way. Like case in point, like I'm looking at a David Goggins quote right now, like there's no better way to grow as a person than to do something you hate every day. That's Stoic philosophy right there. Like you need to grow through pain and discomfort. Like that is the only way to make a new you happen. And there's another Stoic quote, I'll probably bastardize it, but there's no greater tragedy than to there's no greater moment than to see a man succeed through adversity. Something to that effect. Like it's part of why we create stories and movies. Like we want to see, like a movie is unsuccessful if there's no struggle. Like we know that, like through Greek stories too. Like we look at the history of like where our Western philosophy came from. It was, we look at the Greeks and the Romans, and their stories were all about struggle and like overcoming major obstacles, and like it's intrinsically human. And then like another Marcus Aurelius quote that I really like is, "Today I escaped anxiety, or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside." That's exactly what you're just saying. Like, this is what you can control. I can control how I react, not the actual emotion, but you feel kind of shitty. Like, man, that really annoys me. Like I get angry, I get upset. I don't feel good, but the reaction is what is under our control. And you're really encapsulating that in such a good way by taking action. And for me, it was really okay. Well, what can I do? Like I have a small group followers on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I work with individuals on a one-on-one basis, but like, how does that affect any change? And so I had to reflect on that. It's like, well, I could say like, oh, this sucks. Like, we can't do anything, or, like gyms are closed. We're going to, no, it's like, okay, well, like get outside and like start throwing some weight around like in your backyard. Okay, well, can we get a kettlebell? Can we get, what can we do in order to get through this so that we can actually grow? And that, like, I'm literally wearing the shirt, like the Iron Man shirt. It's my wife's sarcastic as shit. Because that was the whole lockdown pandemic. I was like, well, I had this goal of wanting to do the Ironman. I'm like, okay, well, what perfect time? Like everything's closed. I can only focus on me. So let's get better. And that's what I did. I just, I just worked out like a savage for, 7 months, and did the Ironman unsupported with, a few of my friends that were able to, give me some support. And I was like, okay, what else? Like I'm not going to sit around and put on 25 pounds like the majority of people did, because they're like, well, what else am I going to do? Is this kind of defeatism that kind of sunk in, that I was just like, man, I can't let that happen, especially to like my community too. So I love that you have that positive message that's like, okay, get out there, take control, and your mind follows your body. So, you may be down, you may be feeling like shit, but as soon as you start moving, the mind starts saying, okay. So like that, we're looking at Peterson, Willink and Goggins. Like from Goggins, what did you take from him?
So from Goggins, it spoke to me a bit more than the other books, because similar experiences I had. Now, what else why he spoke to me is because I have a similar way of responding, or personality. Now, these types of people aren't for everybody, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no kidding.
and look, and Goggins and these guys really aren't saying anything new, right? This stuff has always been said, right? The only difference is their delivery method might be a little bit different. So maybe the way Goggins says it, I might receive that better, like just the way he says it. And somebody else might not receive it from him, but some other person might say exactly the same shit, just a different way. And then they take on that knowledge. So they're just different methods of people. These people are different tools, different methods of delivering information. Right. That's it. Because this information's already there. So how does it speak to you? You got to find which information you want to start learning, and then which individual or individuals or books or whatever is the type of style that you can receive that information. And then you can proceed, because there's so much out there. Who do you want to be? Like, and another thing is also, yeah, you can read all these books. And look, I sound smart, but I'm not. I don't read a lot, right? I read those books for a specific reason.
You're smart. Come on, Sachin. Like, you're smart, dude, man. I can tell you're smart, dude.
But like when you're reading these things, you also have to take action, right? Because it's one thing just reading it, but it may not even be accurate. You got to test the hypothesis, right? So if I'm running, the only way for me to really see if Goggins is telling the truth is to do it. Is to see, run 100 kilometers or whatever the fuck it is. Now, then I can actually say from like an actual sort of experienced perspective that either I agree with him or I don't. But just by reading it, I can't, right? It works for that individual, but may not work for me. Right. So I have to try it. and then maybe when I read Jordan Peterson's book, he's all cerebral, right? So I got to start really, okay, what can I adopt from this? What makes sense for me? How do I receive this information? So it's just, everyone's different, right? Like, so for me, I need to do a few things to see if it actually makes sense. And if it makes sense, then I adopt it. So Goggins' mentality, it does. And I have the reason why I'm doing so much more this year. I've been talking to a friend of mine who's also a tier 1 operator, and he was suggesting to me, well, didn't really suggest much. I outlined all the stuff that I'm going to be doing this year, and all he said was to me, execute. That was it. So, right. And what I know from that means is through the process of training and running that 840 kilometers throughout the year will evolve me to another level. Just like the 100 kilometers I did last year elevated me. not the distance, but the process, the journey of doing it. So for me to train myself and then continue the process throughout the year to run 840 kilometers on 8 or 9 different events will level me up probably 2 or 3 more times mentally, not even physically. It's the mental push that I'll be developing.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. It's all fucking mental. And then once I eventually get to the point of running 6,000 kilometers for across Canada in 2025, hopefully the goal by that point will be mentally, I'll be fairly strong, not unbreakable, because there'll be times where you break, right? But it's when you break, how do you recover and how do you continue moving forward, man? Like, it may sound like I have everything all answered, but I'll tell you straight up, man, like I have severe anxiety and depression. So it's a constant battle for me, right? So the last 5 years have been extremely difficult, not the last one. I went through a divorce, separation, all these things that precipitated reflection and deep thought and critical thinking to move in a positive direction forward. I didn't want to continue living a shitty life. I wanted to live a happier life, not meaning money, but just being happy. And how does one be happy? That question you have to ask yourself. I asked it myself. I was like, what do I need to do to be happy? And without fail, every single time, even over the last so many years, this has been the constant. I want to affect change. And that's been constant for me, along with other things. So what I've realized over the last so many years is the place that I work at, which is an amazing job. I'm a canine handler. You can't get any fucking better than that. at least from my perspective, right? But I will be gone from this employment soon because I'm not maximizing my skill sets to help the collective. I'm just doing a job, level 1, basically a level 1 sort of, you know how you hear Joe Rogan and these guys on podcasting, there's levels to this shit.
Yep.
You heard that phrase, right?
Yeah, of course.
So for me, and this is no like pick on anybody or anything, but for me, I think everybody should do a lot more to serve. And that's just my perspective. Now, when they say service in the military or policing or whatever, that's, well, not even, I think military is a higher level of service. So let's say you're saying policing, law enforcement, things like that. That's a level of service. But some people quit there, right? You just at level 1, bro. Like, you got fucking, like, how many more levels to go to really serve, right? So you can serve as a law enforcement officer, you can serve in the military, but then you also should be able to serve the community outside of the job, right? So the job itself is one thing, but you can do so much more for other people. At least that's my perspective and how I want to function and moving forward.
Yeah, it's very similar to the way that the Romans, I'm referencing the Romans because I'm obsessed with them, but you know, the way they perceived your progression as a man through your life was, you start basically, you know, like as an apprentice, you're young, you're learning stuff, you're going to school, like you have a like a tutor, and you figure out what you really like, and then everybody had to eventually go through, you know, military service at some point. And that's where you kind of you like learn how to like break rocks, essentially. Like, you got to do the hard stuff so that you can eventually transition now to benefit your society, your community, by entering into business. It's like, okay, you know, you learn how to negotiate and build your networks, and then after that, then you move into more of like the political sphere. It's like, okay, how do I affect even more change? So every level that you went through in your life was to benefit your society as much as possible through your experience. And it seems like we definitely don't have that kind of philosophy anymore. Some do, some realize, okay, yeah, I'm going to keep on improving and infecting more change, because the best conversation I ever had with anybody was I took a business course, and it was kind of on a whim, and I didn't really know what to expect. And the guy that was running the course, like, I mean, I didn't know him very well, but he was very outspoken, and he called me out. He said, "Dude, you're selfish." And that was like the most shocking thing anybody ever said to me, because I don't consider myself selfish. I always go the extra mile for somebody. I may not be the most conscientious person, but like if you need something, I'm there. Like that's who I like to consider. Like that's how I perceive myself. He's like, yeah, you have all this knowledge, man. And like you could be helping so many people, but you choose not to because you're scared. He's like, that's selfish, man. And so that reframed my entire perception of how I saw myself and how I wanted to actually be perceived to the rest
That's
of the
awesome.
world. So
That's
it was
awesome.
like, that reframing was, it was so key, because that's what allowed me to get over that fear of like, oh, people are going to think I'm stupid. But you know, that's exactly what Peterson talks about. He's like, whenever you start something new, you have to be able to accept that you're going to be a fool. Like you're brand new. You're not going to know how to approach this. You're going to figure it out. But it's that courage to accept that you're going to be a fool and you're going to make mistakes and you're going to stumble and you're going to fall, which allows you to grow, which allows you to affect even more change. So what I hear
Exactly.
from you is like, yeah, you talked about like execute, you know, your buddy's like, hey, execute. Like that's Jocko Willink right there, right? Like that's
Mhm.
prioritize, execute, boom, you know, and go. But rather than just get in your head and think, okay, well, exactly how am I going to do this? Wait, I don't have all my ducks in a row yet. No, I can't go ahead and do it just yet, but I will. I'm really, really motivated. No, it's like, no, man. It's like, if you have the idea, just go. Start with
Mhm.
anything,
Mhm.
and you have, which is freaking incredible. Now,
Well,
my
you could say there's a couple ways of saying it too, right? A lot of people might say fake it till you make it, right?
sure, yeah.
I prefer not to say that because I actually believe words do matter actually,
Oh,
and I don't
100%.
think you should fake. I don't think you should fake anything. But what you can do, you can behave your way to success, right? So
Mm,
you can take the steps or do the things that are successful people do. Whatever success means to you, it might be different for me, it might be different for you. But whatever success is for you, start figuring out what that is. So, you know, when you hear a lot of Goggins and stuff, people saying do more uncomfortable things, do things that are hard. The reason why they say that is for the process of you to be able to learn how to navigate yourself, how to manage yourself. So
mhm.
when you're doing difficult things repeatedly, just like Jordan Peterson said, do things that you're new at so you can learn, so you can struggle, so you can, like, that's all part of the process. At 39, I'm 44 now. At
Mhm.
39, I started jujitsu. At 39,
Sweet.
and I was about 215 pounds. Not overweight, I was like bodybuilding style, right?
Mhm.
I was getting my ass kicked for 6 months, straight up. Like, and
That's
by guys who were 140 pounds,
right,
right?
the wiry guys, you're like, "Oh, come on, man."
Fucking spider, no, not even wiry, man. They were like spider monkeys jumping around. Like, I was like, holy shit. So, anyways, the point is this, right? What did that do for me? And I'll break it down. And this is part of the research and experimentation of doing difficult things over and over and over again. Then you get to see and reflect the on the research and how you respond to it, right? So for me, I think doing these difficult things helped me to understand a lot of the rules of Peterson. So, like, one rule he has is like, um, listen to someone as if they have something to tell you, like something that's informative for you, right? So, what that
Mhm.
tells me is to reduce my ego. Everyone has something they can offer me. Everybody, even if they aren't a significant, like a phenomenal athlete, but they might have some skills to. So, if they're talking to me, let me listen to them like they have something to share, because I don't know everything. Right? So let's listen. So anyway, yeah, so the uncomfortable things, doing the difficult things, seeing how I respond, interacting with these individuals while I'm doing like, say, jujitsu, which is extremely difficult, and then getting guidance from people. Like, it all is part of the system. It's all part of the process of evolving. So I'm not even here to tell people how to do anything. I don't know a fucking thing. What I do know how to do is um, grind, and I know how to like set a plan, and I know how to try to like execute that plan. I'm not the best at it, but I'm getting better. And how do you get better is by doing more difficult things. So I'm going to keep planning things, because eventually I'm going to have to execute my Canada run, and all this practice of planning these different runs that I have each year will help me get there. So that's kind of like
Mhm.
the thought process behind trying to figure out how to run across Canada. And step one is passion, right? I'm fucking passionate, so at least if you get me in front of some people, you can see it, right? And
Yeah.
we got a lot of big things planned for the next few years. Like, I'm super excited that we're going to get a ton of exposure. Like, I'll give you a couple little tidbits of cool things that are coming. So Oh, I don't know if I should share it.
Predicament.
Okay, April 29th, I'm doing that Goggins 4x4, right?
Okay.
But what I'm trying to do is try to help as much as I can on every level. So not just raising funds, not just training, not just running, but if I can record or document how I'm training and how that could be beneficial. So what I mean by that is when I'm running the Goggins one, I'm going to document the entire thing professionally. So it's going to be filmed like a short documentary, 5 or 10 minutes. Same with the 100 miler that I'm going to do on April 29th. But what I'm trying to do is I want to be able to connect the difficult tasks that I'm doing and the benefits of it through mental health, right? So through anxiety and depression, and how does it build resolve? How does it build resiliency? Now, in doing that, I'm not the professional who's best suited to explain that information, but I do have individuals that are ready and who will narrate and who will provide their perspective as to how these types of activities, not saying you have to run 100 miles, but doing difficult tasks physically helps improve from a scientific perspective your mental health. I'm going to have these two individuals narrate these videos. You know them, or at least one of them you know, and one of them is fairly popular within the law enforcement community in Canada. So he'll give me 2-3 minutes of his time. But I
Awesome.
mean, these are things I'm excited about to share with everybody, because it's one thing to say, hey, do exercise, this is how it helps. But if you can see it, and if you can get the information from somebody that's respected and valued in that realm of, or that sphere of knowledge that they have, then maybe it goes a bit further, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Like, you can only go so far with, when you're talking about things, you got to put things in motion. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and the ability to convey a message now through video is this. We have godlike technology now. We can show it across the planet now. So everything that you do that you can document, and that's something that I regret not doing enough of in my preparation for the Ironman, is that I was like, part of me was just like, well, it's training is training, and I'll occasionally like whip out my phone. But had I done a bit more and been a bit more disciplined with that, I think that would have created a better way to convey that, hey, like I was injured, like I shouldn't be technically, according to the doctors, able to do what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, fuck it. Like, what am I just going to accept that? Okay, I can't really do anything active for the rest of my life now because like I banged up my knee and my back. Like, no, that's bullshit. Like, I figured it out. I'm able to do it. So, okay, let's show everybody that, you know what, you can battle back and do something.
No, but that's exactly right, man. Like, I think that's the perfect sort of way of thinking. I think if we can kind of, anytime we do something, at least for me now, this is the mentality I'm trying to adopt now.
Mhm.
Anytime I do something, it's got to be helpful somehow, right? So so while I'm running this year, I was like, how can I help with even the run? If I can film it and then, show what I'm going through and then how it actually is beneficial, then maybe that can be a tool for people to use to whatever, right?
Right.
So and speaking on the point that you were just talking about in terms of like, oh, being able to do something and you weren't supposed to be able to, this, that, and the other, right? Well, I mean, Seb Lavoie, right?
Yeah, of course, he was on the pod.
Yeah, and you're basically talking about exactly kind of like what he's going through, right? Like he's not the average. So when the doctors are saying, hey, you ain't going to be able to do this, that, and the other, well, they're talking from an average individual's perspective, right?
Correct.
Some of us are an average. Some of us are physically, let's say, further along than average. And, you almost have to have a different set of rules or metrics for those individuals to see how they can recover or how you can push them to get recovery a lot faster. So if you look at Seb Lavoie, for example, that guy's still grinding, he's still pushing, he's still doing whatever he needs to do because he knows that he needs to do that because people are watching him and people are looking at him. So he realized that as a good leader, he needs to put on I know him okay. I don't know him super well, but I'm sure he has days where he feels like garbage, but he doesn't show it to too many people. And he's trying to put a positive spin on his social media so that people are positive. So we can all learn from that, and we can all take a piece from that and move in a positive direction forward for everybody. That's the goal. Not one person, everybody, even people we don't agree with, even people we don't like. We got to bring everybody along.
Like at the end of the day, like that's like the beauty of sport, right? Like the beauty of sport is that, like, especially, like, I don't know if you played hockey, but like at the end of a hockey game, like you would have, a fight or what, but at the end of the game, it's like, hey bro, like, hey, good game, like it was just like, we touch gloves and it's there, it's done, like it's done, and through that struggle, through that aggression, you end up coming closer together because you're in the arena, if you want to call it, together, right? Like you're in the battle together. So you have that mutual respect for just being there, doing things that are hard together. And that, regardless of your opinion or regardless of your political affiliation, whatever, brings you together. And that's what I love about being in the military. Like, the concept of, like, you're all equally worthless. Man, I love that philosophy, because like when you start, like, yeah, you guys are all just grunts. You guys don't know anything. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what your background is. I don't care that you have a sore toe. I don't care that you have ADD and that your mother was shitty to you. It doesn't matter. None of that matters right now. What matters is that you get your shit done and you look out for your platoon and you look out for your section mates. Like, that's it. And it's like, man, that is, like a lot of people need a good dose of that, just to be like, hey, look, we're all in this together, man. Like, I don't really care like what you're thinking right now with respects to like political ideology or whatever. We're in this together and we got to figure this out. So, let's put all those things aside and let's build something together. That's, that's ultimately like what I want to see just in my local community, is just like, hey, like, we need to start talking again, man. So like, do we do it through like sports? Do we do it through the church? Where do we do this? Because ultimately I feel that we're very sick. And I don't mean necessarily like, with like COVID or anything like that. I mean like fundamentally, like on almost like a philosophical, like we're sick. We don't make the bonds that we used to. We don't talk to each other like we used to. We eat terrible food. We end up with all kinds of these like diseases and suicides. And I'm like, well, that's to me the sign of a very sick society that just doesn't know how to make themselves better. And we're just constantly going down this downward spiral of shit. And we need individuals like yourself to be like, hey, no, hold on a sec. Like, let's just do this. Let's just take action and let's see where this goes and let's see if we can build. So your message is super powerful, man. Like you're taking massive action. Running across Canada is like, that's huge. Like I had no idea that was your ultimate end state. So that's a massive plan. So good on you for that.
Well, honestly, man, that's the ultimate end game. Now, it is daunting, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. It keeps me up at night sometimes trying to figure out.
I'm stressed out just thinking about it.
Well, I got a lot on my plate, let's say, but it's not the training part that's the hard part for me. It's just logistically figuring out how to plan it, how to fund it, how to pay for it, how to, do those things. And look, I have time. Look, 2025 is the date. If it happens sooner or a little bit later, that's okay. But it's going to happen because I say it so. And whenever I set a goal, and anybody who knows me, whenever I set a goal, I achieve it. Full stop. So last year, I had never run, right? I had never fundraised my entire life. I wasn't even in the collective. I wasn't even gave a shit about anybody. Oh, just myself. You talking about selfish? I'll do you one better, bro. Trust me, I know selfish. But I've had a significant change in perspective, and I feel like, this is the right way to go. And bringing everyone on board and being part of the community rather than being out of it is a better way of going about things. And running across Canada, look, it's going to happen. I ran that 100K. I never ran before, and I did it. People were doubting me before I even did it. People said, you've never run. You're a bodybuilder. What are you talking about? Well, I did it because I said I was going to do it. And I did it in the amount of time I said I was going to do it, 15 hours. And the goal was $10,000, and we far exceeded it. So I know, so when I talk to people and I mention cross Canada, now people are starting to buy in a little bit, and I get it. It's fucking huge. It's crazy, all that stuff. But the difference is that when I say it now, for me, it's the difficulty is already done. Because the difficulty it was for me to arrange and plan the 100 kilometers and do everything required for me to do that in terms of engagement and all that stuff, that was difficult as if I had planned to run across Canada. So I've already done the planning to run across Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now so I'm framing it in that way. The difficulty, the heavy lifting's been done. Now I just have to continue the momentum. Keep running, keep pushing forward, and do more. So these runs that I'm going to do this year is part of that. Here we go. We got 8 runs. We're going to fucking promote the shit out of this. We're going to also, get in touch with Global News locally. I have a decent relationship with the local senior reporters now. So they have been engaging with us. So they did a report when we delivered the check to the Legion. They did a report on the TV when I finished the run, and then leading up to the run, they did it. So they'll do the exact same thing when we do it this year, and then year after year. So I'm trying to engage with as many people as possible to get the exposure and awareness for what we're trying to do. And, fingers crossed we can execute the plan with the help of all the brothers and sisters across Canada.
That's amazing. So touching on how your running prep went, I'm curious to know, because, the distance I've done, 2 marathons, and I know what it takes to get ready for an Ironman, but for 100 clicks, that's a whole different beast because, if anybody that, if you're listening, you're like, okay, I've done a 10K, a 20K, it's hard. A marathon is hard, but doing a 100K in 16 hours, you said?
It was 14 hours, 58 minutes.
Wow. Good on you, man. That's amazing. So, how did you get your training dialed in to be able to accomplish that?
So, I didn't know anything about running. So I thought, hey, how hard could it be? I just run, right? Because as a kid, you think, oh, that's what running is. I didn't think of it as a sport, right? I didn't think of it of the nuances of the stride, of the gait. So I was starting from zero. I had to learn and research and pick people's brains and things for the actual just to run. So what's the first thing you do is you just got to get started, right? So I just get started. I started running at short distances, and then any challenge or roadblock I started coming into, I didn't quit. So I problem solved every issue that came up, which I do every single time, anytime I do any physical activity. Because naturally what people do is when they hit that roadblock, they say, fuck it, I'm done. But you have to push through that roadblock to figure it out to get to that next stage. So, for example, my goal, I was running twice a week, maybe 3 or 4 months into my running. And my goal was to be able to do a half marathon and a marathon in a week, right? So that would be 21 plus 42. So that's 63 kilometers.
Yep.
So Tuesdays I assigned half marathon day, and Saturdays was going to be my build up to 42 kilometers. And I was building up from 25 and then adding a bit each week, right? So I got to 30 kilometers, and then I do 21 on a Tuesday and 30 on a Saturday. And I was like, fuck, man, why am I still I was beat up. My body was sore all the time. My glutes, my legs. I was like, what the fuck is going on? That's where some people might quit. But then I was like, okay, then I started thinking, okay, well, there's Cameron Haynes. This guy's in his fucking 50s, and he can do a marathon a day. How does he do it? He's not better than me. And then I started framing it different in my head, because I have to frame it almost in a competitive nature so that I can get up for it. So then I have to frame it in my mind. I go, well, fuck him. I can do that.
Right? Just get angry at him. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I respect him, right? So I'm like, fuck that, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then, so then I started figuring out, okay, well, it took me a couple of days of thinking, because I try to think a lot about what I do. And it took me a couple of days to think on it. And then I came to the realization that the issue that I had was reps, specificity and reps. So I wasn't doing enough running. So I did more. So what I did was I changed up the methodology. Instead of Tuesdays and Saturdays, I just ran every day, but less amount.
Yeah.
So I started off with, and I was doing 10K a day almost, relatively okay. So I started with 11K a day. So I started with 11, and then I set a goal for 10 weeks. Go up a kilometer every day, and then until I could do 21 kilometers every day. So I went up to 21K, and I did it. but that was that, and mind you, the last 3 weeks was a grind.
No kidding.
But I did it, and what that taught me was the reps I needed to get in, and so that was one thing I learned through at the very beginning. What I'm learning now, because I'm at a pretty decent level, but I'm still at the beginning. I still perceive myself as a beginning sort of runner guy, and but what I've realized now is when I go on my runs, even my short runs, I'm not like short 10, 12, 15 maybe, or even 8K. Anything shorter than 8K, maybe it'll be a faster run for me, so I'll go fast.
Yeah.
But if it's like if I'm going 8, 15 or whatever, I'm going with the pace I think I want to use for long distance. So I can practice sometimes there. And mind you, I'm experimenting, right? It's what works for me. So some weeks I might say, okay, you know what? I'm going to keep this pace at 6.5 minutes, 6 to 6.5 minutes per kilometer on an 8K, which is slow for me. But if I keep that mindset and see how I feel, then maybe I'll push it to 12 or 13. And if that's easy, then I can say, okay, wait a second, can I sustain this pace for 10 hours? Let me see how long I can sustain it for. And then going back and forth of trying to see how long I can sustain something, or maybe I can go 5.5 minutes per kilometer, do that for a few hours, and then jump it up to 6.5, come back down, like go up and down, see where the recovery is. And like, so, but this is like breaking it down really in the weeds of it.
Yeah.
And but this is all me doing it. Just kind of figuring it out. I've linked up with a gym now. They've volunteered and donated their services. So there's a gym in my local area called Fit House Strong Nation, and they have a strength and conditioning coach, physiotherapist, and nutritionist that basically they're going to help formulating programs really for my legs, like leg training type of work programs to help improve my running and help improve my endurance and help improve the power. So these are people that have bought in on what we're trying to do, and they're not veterans or nothing. They're just regular civilians that want to do some good. And
that's awesome.
This is basically probably like $15,000 worth of services that they're donating to me for a 3-year period. So here's like it's all starting to come together, and once I'm done all this training, I'll have a breadth of knowledge and understanding of how and documentation of all of it. So hopefully at some point, maybe I can consolidate all of this information into a book at some point.
For sure.
But right now the goal is to continue on this journey, not deviate, and execute with the best of my abilities, and making sure that I can do it in a positive way, both engaging with civilians and then first responders and veterans. That's the goal.
It's cool to hear, like you're an experimenter, right? You're a scientist, so you're able to carry out a hypothesis, realize that, oh wait, okay, there's something wrong here. My hypothesis on the 2 long runs is not getting me to my desired end state, which is to be able to do the run without being like wrecked. So okay, observation complete, cool. Okay, modify the hypothesis, go back, test again, observe. And you're doing exactly what any good athlete would do, especially taking on something big like this. And that's exactly, the steps that I went through as well, because I realized doing like I just didn't have the time, like I was looking at like these Ironman training plans. I'm like, oh, I don't have this amount of time. How can I short circuit this? So, like I was always a runner and I was a swimmer when I was a kid. So, I was like, okay, the swim, I'm just going to need to be confident in the water again. And so I can focus most of my time on the bike, because I was like really weak on the bike because I never cycled before. And so what I did, like I had a coach, right, that just, planned me out, but did a ton of work before putting in the miles on strength and conditioning. Just like, it was just like legs, single leg, single leg, single leg. I was like, oh man, my legs are fried, but then once it came to race day, like, man, like the day after, I was literally, I had an interview live on CBC at 9 a.m. the day after I finished the Ironman, and I was fresh. Like I was training on the Monday again. I was like, I'm fine. I'm not even sore. And
Bro, man,
people,
I'm telling you that your body, like our bodies are capable of so much.
and then I was like I was like, and I didn't recognize it because when I came home, like I did my Ironman, basically I clover leafed around my own house, right? For
Yeah.
17 hours.
Oh, shit.
And
Okay.
so when I got back, like there was like a party, right? There's the people that helped. My wife was like the company sergeant major, sorting out all the logistics and everything like that.
Yeah.
And then there was beers and food and everything. And like I went upstairs, had a shower, came back down, and like everybody was kind of looking at me like, Dave, you okay? And they kept on asking me, like, Dave, you okay? Dave, you okay? Dave, I'm like, why do you guys keep on asking if I okay? They're like, because you just did the Ironman, bro. I was like, so they're like, but we've seen on TV people just like collapsing and like quivering with their bodies failing. They're like, you're fine. I'm like, yeah, can I have a beer? And they're like, well, I don't get it. I'm like, well, it's just your body is just able to go so deep into, if you want to call it the hole or whatever,
Mhm.
but with good and proper preparation and doing it smartly, like it's proof that if you have a good system and you
Mhm.
push through those, it's the pushing through the shitty days when you're training, right? That
Mhm.
make the difference. Like the days you're like, oh man, I really don't feel like going out.
Yep.
It doesn't matter, man. You have a big goal, like you got to go out and do it. And like I had searing knee pain at, one point, and I was like, oh God, I'm done, but I was like, wait, hold on a sec. Don't let that sink in. No. Come up with another solution, just like you did, like come up with a solution. And I did. And within a week and a half, I was back running again. So I was like, okay, so problem solved, fixed. And it just, it just requires that determination that, okay, I'm not going to let this pain or this discomfort ruin the fact that I've got a big goal that I'm committed to, ruin it. So really cool to hear. So right now I'm guessing you're in full training mode right now. You've got like 4 or 5 runs in a week and you're getting ready for the
I'm running
four
every
by
day.
four. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
So I'm right now. My training regimen is to do 8K every day.
Yep.
Because if I do 8K every day, included with the 840 kilometer race running, should get me trained enough. I think I'll be upwards of close to 4,000 kilometers for the year.
Okay.
By the end of the year. So I have some wiggle room, actually, to be honest. I was expecting to have to do 10 kilometers every single day, but no, and mind you, I'll have to do some elevation training as well, which I'll start incorporating. Which actually I'm started already incorporating about a week or two ago. So most of my running, I'm trying to either do outside on trails or like in US. I was gonna say New Westminster, but you're not from New BC, so it's a little hilly out there, right? So I'll go outside in these fucking hills and just go up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, that's kind of the focus. And if I'm hitting a treadmill for now, like for the next few weeks, I'll probably just walk on incline for about like maybe the highest incline and do 8 to 10K on that. And then and keep it simple. And it's just grinding, really. Yeah. Because I'm putting a lot of wear and tear, right? And I got shoes, like I have 8 or 9 shoes just for running, which I rotate through based on the type of run I'm doing and how long I'm going to go for.
Right.
And little things like that make a difference, man. Like your shoes, your socks, especially on how long you're going to run for. Like it makes a huge difference. I haven't had a blister. And I use Endurapparel socks, and their socks are fucking legit, man. And by the way, if anyone wants to buy them, they can use my discount code Sachin 15% off everything on their website.
Sweet. We'll have to get those in the show notes for sure. Yeah. I mean, like all those little things, it's like when you go on patrol or whatever, like you got to sort out your gear. And like, there's a lot of little things that, aren't provided by the Queen that you have to get dialed in. Like socks is like, for the infantry, for us was like, case in point, like, yeah, you can get the issued ones, sure. But they're great when you're on like a recruit course, but like, let's be honest, like you live and die on your feet. So
those are fucking wool too, right?
Yeah. I granted I'm wearing the army wools right now. They're best for the winter. But like when you're doing a lot of miles, especially if you're running, the socks, a lot of people don't even consider that. Like I never got a blister either. Like I know how to police my feet. So, but you can easily end up with like a bloody, like hamburger of a foot doing a marathon. If you're not careful, just the littlest rub on any part of your body, on any part of your foot, you're done, and that underwear everywhere. Like all these little things that you don't necessarily think of. If there's any sort of friction point, you're getting a blister. It's going to
And that's why you
rip
have to
apart
do a
your
lot of
skin.
training to figure out those issues, right? So like for
That's
me, I
right.
need to get like some waxy kind of like stuff to put on my between my legs. Because when
Oh
you're
yeah.
running, you get chafing, right? And
Oh
it
yeah.
doesn't matter if you're running for half an hour, but if you're running for 10 hours, 8 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, like it makes a difference, right?
No, it turns into hamburger. It's disgusting. Like I've got chub rub all the time, right? So
Yeah,
my wife thought I was disgusting, right? I got the what was it called? The butt balm or whatever
yeah,
it's
yeah,
called for a cyclist. And like
yeah.
I just like I'd squirt that in my shorts. I put that in my hand and just like rub, and just like it's like that's disgusting. I'm like, well,
Yeah,
you
but
know
I
what?
mean, you don't want to feel it, right?
Well, no, exactly. Like that's the worst thing that can happen, right? Because that'll just end your day. Like, well, I mean,
Yeah,
and not necessarily like if you push through, but why go through the discomfort when you can mitigate it right up front? And
yeah,
that's the
like
same.
yeah.
That was the same like when I first started triathlon. My first Olympic triathlon, I was on pre-training. I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing in my off time. I just wanted to prove to myself I could do one. And I was like, cool. Like I was ready. Like I was good to go. The distances aren't daunting. And I did like the rookie mistake of rookie mistakes, which is I crushed a bunch of food that I hadn't used during training,
Yeah, that's bad.
and
Yeah.
I had freaking unbelievable diarrhea on the freaking run. It was just like, oh no. I was like, why? Like,
You
and
know what helps for long runs? Imodium.
well, okay, so yeah, so I was like, okay, well, how do I prevent this? Because I was
Right.
like, this is like common for me. Like, I can't eat when I'm like marathon, everything like that. Even if
Yeah,
I have a gel or anything like
yeah,
that, I'm like, I crap my pants, and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
well, my body was just not. So I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And I talked to this coach who does Ironmans on the podcast last year, Rick Harper. He's a veteran too, and he was like, hey
Mhm.
man, he's like, have you ever considered keto? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, give it a try, man. He's like, it takes a while to get kind of adapted to it. So I tried it, and dude, oh my God, what a difference that made. Like I completely changed everything that I was doing with respect to nutrition. I was able to like bring down the amount of food I had to have on the course. And I had zero gastrointestinal issues, which made everything, because that was my biggest of all the things I was worried about. I was like, I'm really concerned about my guts. It was all about my guts. And I practiced with the same nutrition on every long run and every long bike for like 3 months, so that I knew on race day, I'm like, okay, no changes. This is exactly what I'm going to have, and I'm not touching anything else. And yeah, it's, you
So did you,
plan
when
ahead,
you
you're going
did
to find.
that, when you did that, did you do that for keto for every meal and training, or just
Oh
like
yeah.
just for training?
Oh yeah. Like I went hard for 6 months.
Mm-hmm,
So yeah, it's amazing how people get angry when you say I don't want a potato. It's so
hmm
weird.
hmm
My mother was like, what do you mean you're not eating? I made you a potato. I'm like, yeah, I'm not eating it. She's like, oh, and like my
hmm
wife adapted because she makes the bulk of the food, and she was okay with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it meant I didn't touch beer for 6 months.
Mhm.
I think I had one or two. I didn't touch anything with any sugar for 6 months. I lost almost 30 pounds. I was just lean, mean. I felt awesome. And it was something that I knew I had to do. And it turns out like I didn't hit a wall. I didn't hit anything.
Hmm.
I had these really interesting, I made them myself. I created these fat bombs that I put in the
Mhm,
freezer, and I
mhm.
just chop them up, and I would just like pop them like on my bike. I eat a ton of them, and it was just basically coconut milk, high fat coconut milk, heavy cream, a little bit of blueberries, and some collagen powder. And it turns out that was like the magic formula. So
Awesome.
haven't got a patent on it yet, but yeah, it
Work on
worked
it,
out.
man. You need to start selling them.
Yeah, well, it worked out really well. Like, I just, just one of those things. I'm like, I need to come up with a solution. Like you said, like you come up with a problem. It's like, okay, well, what's my solution to this? So there wasn't anything on the market that I could have that was going to solve my problem. So I came up with that. So, yeah. So that was just one of like an example of coming up with a
Yeah, you know
solution
what I
to a
like to
problem.
call? I like to say I mean, this is an old saying, but it exactly proves what you just did there. Is that necessity is the mother of invention, right? You
Yeah,
needed
absolutely.
something, so you figured it out.
That's exactly it. Exactly it.
Simple, right?
Yeah. Sachin, man, this has been an awesome freaking conversation, man.
It
I
has
mean,
been, man. It's been
like,
amazing.
yeah, like I mean, just what we're talking about here about training and stuff like that, but the fact that you're taking action so aggressively, And like you said, you're obsessed, right? You've
Yeah.
now, there's no way back. You basically burn the boats, like you
Yeah.
are going forward and
Yeah.
getting this done. I know we already had a conversation prior to this about the 4x4x48. So keep me up to date on the timings, and
Awesome.
I'm definitely down to do the 4x4x48. I'm already back in
Awesome.
my running routine.
Yeah.
So I'll be ready
Well,
if it's in
what I'll
April.
start doing, I mean, obviously, like you're on my social media, so like everything will be posted. And in the next couple, starting February 1st, I'm gonna have a big push on promoting what I'm doing this year.
Mhm.
So we're gonna release a promo videos. We're gonna release a poster, like almost like a concert date poster, where it shows the dates that I'm running and where I'm gonna be and the distances. And then the promo video will be essentially like a 2 to 3 minute call to action on social media, on Instagram, and I'll obviously, hopefully, we can share that as far as we can get it. And yeah, and then the Goggins thing, we'll do all that, and then we'll kick it off real good on end of March.
All right. I love it.
All right,
Yeah,
all
I'm
right,
down.
brother.
I'm definitely down for that, man. So, Sachin, thanks so much for sharing your experience and what you're up to,
Awesome.
man. Definitely want to touch base again before you go and launch this massive endeavor. And yeah, no,
Anytime you want me to jump on to talk about anything, like and to be fair, um, I, like I'm I like talking about all kinds of shit. So anytime you want me on the show, or we want to talk about working out, or you want to talk about jiu-jitsu, or you want to talk about fucking Marvel Cinematic Universe, you fucking let me
oh
know,
no,
man.
dude, you're a Marvel nerd too. Oh God, no, that's man, I
Oh
can't go
no,
down that rabbit hole.
okay. Which rabbit hole are you on, man? I'm probably on that one too.
Oh God. Well, okay. So I'm literally looking at my stack of graded Marvel cards from the 1990s. I've got my
I used to collect those.
okay. I've got my
FYI.
stack. I got my stack of binders full next to me with all my comics as well.
Yes.
I've now started like getting back into the whole cinematic world. My
Yes.
kids now are
Okay.
getting old enough that they really appreciate Marvel, and I was like, oh man, I was like, I didn't realize how much I loved Marvel, for the last 25 years. I haven't really, looked at it. I was just, doing my own thing. And then I
So how about
realized,
we do
man,
this, man? How about we do this? You do your research on your fucking Marvel shit, and then in the next few weeks, I'll get you on a comic book podcast with me.
oh man, oh man. Okay. Yeah. My wife's not going to be happy, man. She's like, oh, you're going to do your nerd shit again. I'm like, yes, honey, the
Or
nerd shit's
even some
coming.
movies. Like get up on some movies, because I got a buddy of mine who does like a podcast talking about just all kinds of movies and shit too. And it's good to experiment on different things to talk about. Sometimes it's fun, right?
Oh
And
man, this has been like my I guess my lockdown like creative outlet, that and
yeah,
cryptocurrency. I just kind of like, I was like, oh, what am I gonna do to entertain my brain? I was like, oh wow, these two things have now just exploded for me. So yeah, man, I'm always into nerd stuff. I was a nerd
all
when I was a
right,
kid. So let's
awesome,
rock and roll on that. Send me the links and we'll go from there.
awesome, buddy.
Sachin, before I let you go,
Yeah,
how do people get a hold of you and find out
yeah.
all the awesome stuff that you're doing?
Awesome. So I'm pretty much just on Instagram right now because I'm in my 40s and I don't know how to use any of this other shit.
I could
So
show you, man. I could give you a tutorial.
I barely figured out how to do reels.
We got to
Okay.
get you on TikTok. We got to get you on TikTok, man. We got to
Oh
get you
man, fuck.
TikToking.
Okay, one day. Maybe after I come visit you in Montreal, you can show me how to use that shit. So
I don't
yeah,
know
but
how. I
my
don't know. I'm being a jerk. I don't know how to use it either. So
my Instagram is obviously at SACH dot IN dot MOTION. Sach in motion. And I have a website, which is sachinmotion.com, all one word. And yeah, so anybody who wants to look, see what's going on. Also on my Instagram, I have a link to Honor Ranch or Honor House. If people want to see where the money's going to go, they can click on that link and they can see everything there and how Honor House helps our brothers and sisters across all first responder and veteran communities.
amazing, amazing,
Awesome.
cool,
All right, bro.
cool.
Well, it was awesome chatting with you, and hopefully we can do this again. And
Yes, absolutely.
awesome, buddy. All right,
So
take care. Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate the listeners. And if anybody wants to DM me, contact me, by all means, do it on Instagram. And also I want to say this too, eh? So I have extensive experience in bodybuilding and diets and nutrition, all that kind of stuff. So anybody right now who's dealing with their own mental health issues, whatever it may be, and having any issues with the pandemic in terms of trying to lose weight, hit me up. I'll give you a nutrition plan. Don't worry about it. It's all whatever.
Beauty.
And yeah, anybody who needs any help with that, let me know. DM me. I'll even do check-ins once a week to see if it's working, all that kind of stuff.
Beauty. We need an army of individuals like yourself to do this kind of stuff. Imagine we had it deployed for the last 2 years, people to help get your weight down and actually get your fitness and health checked out. We'd be out of this pandemic by now. So awesome for you for doing that. I'll make sure that your links there for IG and your website are in the show notes. And again, thanks so much for coming on the show, and we'll have to have a check-in way before you end up doing the huge thing in 2025. So folks, again, thanks for tuning in, and don't forget, train hard, fight easy. Peace.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can find out more about training, nutrition, and mindset at davemorrow.net. Be sure to like us on Facebook and Instagram at Dave Morrow PT. And don't forget, strong people are hard to kill.